Hi, I'm Jeff Slavens with Slavens Racing. This video is about how to install thrust bearing kits for fork springs. We sell these at slavensracing.com. We also sell the special tools needed to install them. So the first thing you need is this 4-pin tool. Fits in these 4 holes in the cap. You should remove the forks from the bike. It makes it much easier if you do it that way. Put this tool in here. I've already loosened everything up for this video just to speed up the process, but put that tool in there, use your ratchet, unscrew it, slide this all the way down. Then you need a 22mm wrench. Pull the fork spring down so that this is exposed. Slide the wrench on there because this is locked against the fork cap. Then you have to have a 24mm socket. Here, this is already loosened up. That socket fits on this section right here, and that allows you to take the cap off of the spindle, the damper rod spindle. This is the damper rod spindle. It goes the full length of the fork here, and it moves up and down, and it's attached to the cap. So from here, you have to remove these plastic preload spacers because the bearing needs to fit right here on this metal plate. So the bearing goes in first. Then this is called a race. It just looks like a steel washer that fits on top. And now you want to remove one of these spacers in order to compensate for the thickness of the thrust bearing kit. So the bearing and the race measure about 2.3 millimeters in thickness, and one of these thin washers is 2.8 millimeters. So if you remove one of those, that gets you close to having the same preload as you did before. Then you put the thick one back on and put the cap back on the spindle. But now before you do that, you actually want to make sure that this spindle is fully exposed, the threaded area, so you would want to hold on to the spindle and turn this piece all the way down. This is called the spring guide, and it locks against the cap, but you want to make sure this is down all the way. Just screw it down until you feel it stop, because you want to make sure that the cap bottoms all the way onto this spindle. If it does not bottom all the way, then the adjuster doesn't work. The functionality of the adjuster is useless. It will just continue to turn and not stop like it's supposed to. So put this back on. Make sure you screw it all the way on to where you feel it bottom onto the spindle. And then you can just hold onto your wrench and keep on going and let the cap bottom against the spring guide where the 22mm wrench is, because you have to lock these back together like it was before. You basically just reverse your process. So at this point you want to really tighten this down with your 24mm socket and the 22mm wrench, and it's really hard to over tighten this. So if you're a torque spec freak, well then go ahead and look up the specs. I don't do it that way. I just tighten them down very snug. That's a good sized shaft that can handle a lot of torque, and tighten those down. And then this needs to be screwed back into here and tighten it down. You can just tighten it by hand. This is an aluminum cap into an aluminum fork tube, so you don't get carried away with tightening that or you'll never get it back out of there. That will tend to seize up. And that has to be tightened back down with this 4-pin special tool. So in order to really get that correctly tightened, you would need to have soft jaws in your vise to hold it, or you can use the triple clamp as your vise. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks.